Good morning, everybody. Welcome. That's amazing. The crowd got quiet pretty quickly. Good listeners, so thank you. Welcome to Charlotte. Welcome to our conference. I'm Lynn Daniel. For those of you who do not know me, I think I know probably most everyone around here. If I can get this thing figured out. Let's see if I'm going the right way. Nope, not the right way. For those of you who are new to Charlotte, I want to tell you a little bit about it. We are located in Southeast Charlotte, better known as South Park. There are plenty of restaurants within walking distance if you need to find a great restaurant. If you want some suggestions, see me, Doug, or most anybody on our team. They'll tell you some great ones. South Park is across the street for those who need a shopping fix. So if you need to get a special gift for someone special, you can go over there. There's Tiffany's, Neiman Marcus, and all these nice places with very nice stuff. So keep in mind that Easter and Mother's Day are coming up, and we could always use the economic activity here in Charlotte provided by your retail activity. So please take advantage of it. Yeah, I'll get it after a while. Well, maybe not. There we go. A little bit more about Charlotte, some little known facts. Uptown is really up. You know, this is a debate we've had for a long time around Charlotte, uptown and downtown. Bruce, you're laughing because you probably know about it. But it's officially called Uptown. Don't ask me why, but it's called Uptown. Charlotte was named after Queen Charlotte, King George's wife. She was originally from Mecklenburg in Germany, area of Mecklenburg, and that's why we're in Mecklenburg County. It has a nickname, the Hornet's Nest, and that's because when Lord Cornwallis came through during the Revolutionary War, he had a nasty battle in this area. And when he left, he referred to the place as a hornet's nest, probably with a few other colorful words added on to describe it. Of course, if you're a NASCAR fan, 75% of the NASCAR teams are within 90 miles of Charlotte. So many of them have tours of their shops. Generally, if you want to see some first-class machining operations with some of the leading technology in the world, try to get in to see one of these shops. They are fascinating. And it's the place at the start of America's gold rush. We had Reed Gold Mine east of Charlotte, and then underneath Charlotte, they dug for gold for a while, many, many, many moons ago. And it's the world's largest man-made river. The Whitewater Center is a place where they have competitive kayaking and whitewater rafting. So it's a really great facility. For those of you who want to try it out sometime, it really is a lot of fun. So welcome to all this. Our first conference was held in 2009. The Great Recession caused us to suspend our conference for obvious reasons. And then we had our conference ever since 2012 until COVID came along. And of course, COVID shut down everything, most everything. And so this is the first time we've extended the length of the conference. It was normally a day and a half, it's now 2.5 days. So please let us know what you think about it, which you'll get some opportunity to give us feedback later on. Okay, I'm going to start the first morning session real briefly, and then Doug's going to introduce Arthur Reno, our keynote speaker this morning. But I want to talk about company culture. That's the whole theme of this conference. Many years ago, I had a fellow tell me that they could solve their CX problem if they just got all their processes right. That's all they had to do. Well, I didn't believe him then, and I certainly don't believe him now. If we don't address the issue of company culture, it won't move the needle very much. So how do you find culture? Well, I'll go through a few examples. Shared values, goals, attitudes, and practices that characterize an organization may be one. The DNA that guides employee behavior, or what you do when the boss isn't looking, which is probably the best example of company culture that I can think of. Johnson and Scholes are some psychologists who did a lot of research on culture. They talk about the stories we tell about our organizations as part of that culture, the symbols that we use, our logos, for example, that cat logo we see on the people who are from Caterpillar dealers and cat around here, the Navistar badge that's on the front of your trucks, the IC bus badge is on the front truck, all those symbols that make up part of who we are. Rituals that we go through. We all in our companies have rituals of one type or another. Power structures, of course, the organizational structures itself, how formal, informal it is. And then the controls that we have to make things happen. But, shoot. But I like to think of culture with 5 dimensions. How much autonomy is there, more or less? How much reward recognition do you receive in your job? How collaborative is your work environment? Clear direction, how clear is it? And then accountability. So I want to do a little exercise. If you go into an organization where it has low autonomy, somewhat high reward recognition, a low collaborative environment, high accountability, and reasonably high direction, what kind of customer experience might you have? Think about it for just a second. What might describe that customer experience? And you've got a problem, let's say. You've got an issue, and you're dealing with someone that has very little autonomy, but a whole lot of accountability to get things done. What might you experience?
Probably going to be pretty rigid.
Beg your pardon?
Probably pretty rigid.
Pretty rigid, because low autonomy, they got to go ask someone for something to get something done.
Yeah. A lot of steps. Probably.
A lot of steps. The experience might be slow. Might be painful. Okay. Another one. Okay, here we got a situation where we got a whole lot of autonomy, very little reward recognition, lower collaboration, clear direction, and very little accountability. What might you experience there?
Customer retention.
Beg your pardon?
Customer retention.
Customer retention? How so?
You might lose customers based on their experience with you. Accountabilities and rewards, that's basically customers want the full focus. They want the full experience. And with that model there, you lose that accountability, you lose the reward, which is customer satisfaction. Collaborative is lack of communication.
So because that autonomy is way high, in other words, they can do anything they want to do. You may get an answer, and they have no accountability or little accountability. Yes, you want to say something?
It's going to be hit or miss. It's going to really depend on the personality of the individual.
Bingo.
Because you could have somebody who's personally very much, they hold themselves accountable, but you may, the next individual you interact with within the organization, you can get, it's going to be a wild card.
Yep, exactly. So think about this as we go through the next couple of days, and this is part of the reason we're talking a lot about culture. Second thing I wanted to talk about was the connection between CX and EX, customer experience and employee experience. One of our clients was gracious enough to provide us with some EOS information, employee opinion survey information. And I compared it with the locations and the NPS of each of the locations. Now you can see the line sort of moved somewhat in tandem. What's interesting though, the coefficient of correlation is 0.5, and since Ed's here, our scientist on the data side, I have to be careful what I say, but I think he told me that it would be called moderately high correlation. So in other words, about 50% of what happens there can be explained. Now keep in mind, this is field service. So we've got a human that's going out and taking care of something. So that human is so critical to that experience. And in this case, it explains about 50% of, the human explains probably about 50% of that relationship to NPS. I think EX is going to become, I'm falling into the category of opinion now. I think EX is going to become even more important than CX if we're going to move the needle forward. I say that because think about some things that are happening around us. Resistance to self-checkout lanes. First of all, that's the grocery stores and those that use them have a reason to be concerned about them because they do generate higher levels of loss. They do have their problems. They're inaccurate sometimes, believe it or not. But also, sometimes people don't like them very much. And this study that I found from Drexel University that was released this fall shows that customers who use the human checkout lanes are much more loyal than those who use the scanners. So there's a real impact on what happens in the grocery store if they're using a non-human connection. Another thing, JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America are adding branches. I thought everything would be done eventually on this thing with my bank. But no, they're saying that to reach certain of the audiences we want to reach, small businesses, other people, we need to be in a branch. Now granted, they're not just splashing these branches all over everywhere, but what they're doing is they're putting them in selected places, and JP Morgan's going to be adding about 500 this year to their group of 5,000. I think, my opinion again, in our digital world, there are some growing indications that people want the human more. And this goes back especially to the people in this room, because you still have to have humans to do things for your customers. They've got to fix that engine, they've got to fix that transmission, they've got to pick out the right part for that customer, get that part to him in a timely manner. Okay, so it's been a fascinating discussion to hear some very differing kinds of just structures, part of the culture that makes up these companies. So the second question is, I want to hold that one off and ask you to think about it. Maybe we'll try to find some time on the last day of the conference to think about how can you help change that over the next 2 years? What are the things that you in a CX role can help to change that culture? Because again, going back to my earlier point, the changing the culture, getting the culture aligned with what you want to deliver to your customer to make your organization truly customer centric is, I think, the next big challenge we've got in most organizations that I'm familiar with.